Every sport has secrets, but tennis hides some of the darkest. Vitas Gerulaitis dead at 40. Disco King found in poisoned pool house. It's September 1994. Vitas Gerulaitis, a charismatic 1977 Australian Open champion with lightning-quick hands and a love for nightlife, is found dead in a friend's Long Island pool house. He's only 40. Investigators trace the cause to carbon monoxide poisoning, an invisible, odorless gas. His brain and body are 72–77% saturated with CO. It's a freak accident. A faulty propane heater malfunctioned, filling the sleeping area with lethal fumes. Guests had been staying there all summer, but the deadly levels sneaked up so silently that no one realized. Criminal charges were filed, but a jury acquitted the installer and company in 1996. Gerulaitis wasn't just a champ, he was tennis's dazzling showman. 26 singles titles, a Wimbledon doubles win in 1975, and a legendary one-liner: "Nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 17 times in a row." His sudden death was a gut punch, no scandal, just tragedy. It exposed a hidden danger many homes still face. And if Vitas's story was a haunting silence, the next one is a scream, sharp, personal, and chilling. Arantxa Sanchez Vicario made $60 M, then lost it all to family betrayal. Arantxa Sanchez Vicario once stood among tennis royalty, 4-time Grand Slam champion, world number 1, standing tall in Spain's sporting pantheon. But by 2012, she was broke. $60 million vanished. According to her memoir, it wasn't gambling or divorce, it was her family. She claimed her parents and brother, once obsessed with her career, controlled every financial detail. After breaking free from their influence, she discovered, "Everything I achieved has disappeared. I owe the tax authorities." In 2013, a Spanish court reopened the case looking into alleged asset hiding and mismanagement. By late 2023, Arantxa and her ex-husband faced fraud accusations in a Barcelona trial over €7.6 million debts. She broke down in court, confessing she was naive in money matters and deeply betrayed. From prize money to personal ruin, her fall is a devastating reminder. Fame doesn't shield you from betrayal. Behind dusty trophies and flashing cameras, a young woman lost everything to those she trusted most. James Blake slammed to pavement by NYPD. Wrong man, right outside US Open. The 7th of September 2015. James Blake, once a top 5 ATP Street AR and a national tennis hero, steps off a car outside his hotel near the US Open site. He's returning from morning practice, hands up, he's unarmed, unthreatening. Then, in less than a heartbeat, chaos. Plainclothes NYPD officers swarm. Blake hits the pavement, cuffs flying, his face pressed into concrete. Bystander video shows him struggling, he never resists. It's mistaken identity. Still, he stays cuffed outside as other officers arrive. Cameras catch the moment, pain, confusion, and disgrace on display. Blake 10 ATP titles, Olympic silver, a Davis Cup stalwart becomes a symbol of racial profiling and abuse. Public reaction is immediate, furious. The NYPD eventually apologizes, the officer involved is disciplined, but Blake is shaken. He later reflects, "I can play angry opponents, handle wild serves, but losing my dignity in public, that cut deeper." The story didn't just expose police injustice, it cracked open fans' illusions of superstar invincibility, a champion brought low by real-world brutality. And if that confrontation happened outside the lines, the next one tore through the sport's heart: drugs, lies, and self-destruction. Agassi smoked crystal meth in '97, then lied to ATP to cover failed test. Andre Agassi, the denim-wearing, marketable king of tennis, was the sport's rebel-turned-icon. He won 8 Grand Slams and completed the rare career Golden Slam. But his 2009 memoir, Open, revealed something explosive. In 1997, during a career slump, Agassi used crystal meth with a friend nicknamed Slim. He failed a drug test, but didn't disclose it. Instead, Agassi writes that he crafted a letter, sent it to the ATP, claiming he accidentally ingested the drug while cleaning a friend's house. The ATP accepted it without further inquiry. No suspension. No scandal until that book dropped. Tennis fans reacted in shock. The man who inspired young athletes for his honesty admitted deception that stayed buried for years. He later won his French Open to complete his slam, but the myth of Agassi had cracks. His confession turned a legend into a human being, flawed, desperate, and deeply real. Suddenly, a hero's story wasn't clean redemption anymore. It was a story of chaos and cover-up. Match-fixing syndicates target broke players, one pro banned for life in shame. Tennis isn't just about epic rallies and Grand Slam glory, it has a dark seam running through the underbelly where betting syndicates prey on players struggling to make ends meet. Beginning in the mid-2000 seconds, the Tennis Integrity Unit, TIU, uncovers hundreds of suspicious matches, many from futures and challenger circuits, where players often earn under $20,000 a year. Organized crime sees an opportunity, a set thrown here, a game lost there. One of the most shocking cases involves Austria's Daniel Koellerer. He's not a superstar, ranking peaked at number 55 inches 2009, but he's found guilty of not just accepting bribes, but orchestrating them. In 2011, he becomes the first tennis player banned for life for match fixing. His case becomes a wake-up call. Corrupting a match isn't just a moral crime, it crashes the sport's credibility. Tournaments ratchet up anti-corruption measures, mandatory reporting, betting pattern monitoring, and severe penalties. Yet whispers remain. If one mid-level pro could do this, how much hidden fixing remains buried? And if scandal poisoned tennis, the next story erupts in real time right in the spotlight, at the biggest stage. Serena Williams explodes at US Open, "I'll shove this ball down your throat." The 12th of September 2009. Arthur Ashe Stadium is never meant for violence. Serena Williams, already a 10-time Grand Slam champion, gets called for a foot fault on match point in her semifinal against Kim Clijsters. Suddenly, she storms toward the line judge, towering and furious. "I swear to God, I'll shove this ball down your throat." The silence is audible. The decision is immediate point default, match over. Serena is fined $82,500, the largest penalty ever for a female player at the time, and placed on 2-year probation. The move ignites global debate. Was she a mom, a competitor, pushed too far, or simply abusive? The WTA and ITF respond by tightening rules around verbal abuse, intimidation, and player conduct. Media eat the drama alive, but insiders note, no default had ever ended a semi like this before. It's a reminder that even the most dominant stars can fracture under pressure, and the fallout does more than bruise a legacy. Serena's fire was volcanic, but the next scandal would shatter tennis's clean image on an even bigger scale. Martina Hingis tests positive for cocaine, walks away from tennis at just 27. Hingis is earning around $25 million in career prize money, crowned world number 1 for 209 weeks in singles and 90 inches doubles. But in 2007, right after Wimbledon, everything unravels. She tests positive for benzoylecgonine, a cocaine metabolite. Her sample shows just 42 nanograms per milliliter, tiny, below many detection thresholds, but still enough to trigger a ban. Despite arguing for contamination and filing an appeal, the ITF slaps her with a 2-year suspension starting the 1st of October 2007 and asks her to return $129, 481 inches prize money and ranking points. The appeal fails. Hingis never returns as a singles player. She retires entirely at 27, claiming innocence and shock. Years later, she'd return briefly in doubles, but the moment she dominated the courts, winning 5 slams in singles, and nearly every major in doubles came crumbling down in a quiet test result. Her poetic footwork left the stage as fans watched the fairy tale turn into a fall. Maria Sharapova's doping bombshell shakes tennis, sponsors run as image collapses. Maria Sharapova rockets to fame, first Russian woman to win Wimbledon at 17, 5 Grand Slam titles, over $38 million in prize money, and non-stop endorsements from Nike, Tag Heuer, and more. Then comes the 7th of March 2016. She announces she tested positive for meldonium at the Australian Open, an endurance drug added to WADA's banned list on the 1st of January 2016. She explains she took it for a decade under medical advice, never knowing it would be banned. But the sports world doesn't blink. Sharapova is hit with a 2-year ban from the ITF, later reduced to 15 months after an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport citing no significant fault. Sponsors flee overnight. When she returns in 2017, she wins a first-round match at the US Open against world number 2 Simona Halep. But something changed. The superstar's aura has cracked. To this day, her comeback is marked by resilience, but the scandal will forever anchor the memory of her lightning rise. Monica Seles stabbed mid-match at 19. World number 1's career never the same. The 30th of April 1993. Hamburg, Germany. Monica Seles, 19 years old, world number 1. A fierce force who had already won 8 Grand Slam sits during a changeover. Then chaos. A man leaps from the crowd and lunges a 9-inch knife into her back. The blade misses her spine by millimeters, but the blow is catastrophic. The arena goes silent. Seles screams and collapses. The attacker is arrested on the spot, a deranged fan twisted by obsession with Seles's rival, Steffi Graf. She recovers physically, but the trauma haunts her. She disappears from the tour for 2 years. When she finally returns, she wins the 1,995 Australian Open, but never again reaches her pre-stabbing dominance. This attack shatters the illusion of safety. Tennis, long viewed as a serene sport, scrambles to install metal detectors, security zones, and player escorts. The image of Seles in tears after the injury, holding her back, is forever etched in sports lore. The rules changed, but her spirit, though resilient, was never quite the same. If horror came from a fan's knife, the next meltdown came from a star's fury on court, live the kind of breakdown they don't erase, no matter how legendary the legacy. Jeff Tarango walks out at Wimbledon. Wife storms in and slaps the umpire. The 1st of July, 1995. Court 13, Wimbledon. Jeff Tarango, ranked around number 42, is mid-match against Alexander Mronz. Umpire Bruno Ribea overrules a line call and calls for a replay, sparking a meltdown. Tarango shouts to the crowd, "Oh, shut up," and accuses Ribea of corruption. 2 code violations roll in, first for obscenity, then for verbal abuse, and suddenly, it's point penalty, default. Then Tarango does the unthinkable. He gathers his rackets and walks off mid-match, Wimbledon's first self-default in over a century. But the drama doesn't end there. In the corridors, his wife, Benedicte, slaps the umpire across the face, defending her husband, shouting that officials tear players down with impunity. Tarango is fined, banned from the next year's tournament, and suspended from 2 Grand Slams, though the fines were later reduced. He stands by his accusations, claiming the match felt rigged. Wimbledon's polished image fractures. The incident triggers tighter rules on conduct, default procedures, and a reminder: on the world's most civilized tennis stage, chaos can erupt and it can hit you with a slap. Boris Becker jailed for hiding millions, Wimbledon hero sent to prison. Boris Becker, once a superstar and 3-time Wimbledon champion who captured hearts at just 17, faced his darkest chapter far off the court. In 2022, he was convicted of hiding £2.5 million in assets, including hidden loans, London property, and bank shares during bankruptcy proceedings. Sentenced to 2.5 years in a British prison, he served 8 brutal months at HMP Wandsworth and Huntercombe before deportation to Germany. Becker, who once had a net worth of £38 million, says prison scarred him profoundly. "Prisons are controlled by prisoners," he reflected, admitting he lost 7 kilos in just 4 weeks from cold, stress, and poor food. A poker debt with violent inmates nearly ended in attack, only an outside money transfer saved him. This wasn't celebrity privilege, it was survival. Becker describes the experience as boiling the mind, and says he still sleeps close to the mattress edge, unable to shake the trauma. If a legend was undone not by a rival but by his own hidden crises, the next story shows how talent can spiral under pressure, no scandal, just collapse. Jennifer Capriati's fall. From teen prodigy to drug bust and shoplifting arrest, Jennifer Capriati burst onto the scene as a teen prodigy turning pro at 13 and dazzling with speed, power, Olympic gold, and Grand Slam titles. But by 1993, the pressure began to crush her. At just 17, she was cited for shoplifting a $15 ring from a Florida mall, something she later shrugged off as a slip of mind. Months later, she was arrested for possession of marijuana, a misdemeanor. Fans watched in horror as the wholesome teen turned world number 1 spiraled. She disappeared from tennis and spent time in rehab. She later said she looked in the mirror and saw someone she couldn't recognize, so ugly and so fat she hated everything. Her comeback was meteoric, winning the Australian Open twice and the French Open, reaching world number 1 again. Capriati's story warns that talent and fame can be deadly cocktails. If teen burnout could trigger such a collapse, the next scandals expose darker secrets lurking in the sport. Bernard Tomic tanks matches. Once investigated for match fixing. Bernard Tomic, once a teenage prodigy reaching world number 17, became a polarizing figure as the Tomic the Tank Engine. In 2016, he openly admitted boredom, saying he didn't care if he made the US Open's fourth round. At Wimbledon 2019, he lost a first-round match in 58 minutes, was fined £45,000 and stripped of his prize money for not meeting professional standards. But the darkness deepens. In 2025, police and the International Tennis Integrity Agency probed two of his matches, including a 2022 Australian Open qualifier, and seized his phone amid suspicious betting patterns. Though no criminal charges followed, the investigation rattled tennis insiders. Could a high-profile pro be tangled in corruption? Tomic's fall isn't just about losing a point, it's about trust unraveling in real time. A gifted but directionless player haunted by doubts, fines, and whispers of match fixing. In tennis, oddity was once engaging, but now it's dangerous. Ilie Nastase's chocolate with milk shock, racist rant exposes tennis's dark side. Ilie Nastase, Romania's former world number 1. A showman with 64 singles titles hit his ugliest moment, not with a racket, but with words. In April 2017, as Romania's Fed Cup captain, he was captured saying of Serena Williams' unborn child, "Let's see what color it has. Chocolate with milk?" The ITF swiftly suspended Nastase and removed all his Fed Cup credentials. It wasn't the first time Nastase had crossed lines. He was notorious for tantrums, sexist remarks, and barbed insults throughout his career, but this moment shattered the illusion that tennis was immune to the world's ugly prejudices. A legend undone, not by his playing, but by a reminder that racism still hides in plain sight. Peter Graf jailed. Steffi's glittering career derailed by tax scandal. On the 2nd of August 1995, Steffi Graf, then 26 and reigning as the world's dominant tennis star, learns that her father and manager, Peter Graf, has been arrested. He's accused of evading a staggering 12.3 million Deutsche Marks in taxes on Steffi's earnings between 1,989 and 1,993. A state court convicts him in early 1997, sentencing him to 3 years and 9 months in prison. Graf serves 25 months, including time in pretrial detention, half in jail. Meanwhile, Steffi faces intense scrutiny, stands accused of complicity, and is forced to organize her finances independently, reportedly paying 27 million marks in back taxes and fines. Even amid her grief and turmoil, she doubles down on her career. Steffi continues to rack up Grand Slam titles, shielding her meltdown from the media, but it's clear the woman many saw as unbreakable is also human. Jelena Dokic's unbreakable unmasks abuse. A champion's true battle off-court. Jelena Dokic was a rising tennis star by age 16, world-ranked number 4. A Wimbledon semi-finalist, but her life behind closed doors was devastating. Her father, Coach Damir Dokic, inflicted years of physical, emotional, and verbal abuse. She described being beaten unconscious, starved, and manipulated through fear. Her 2017 memoir, Unbreakable, and the 2024 documentary confront the brutal truth publicly. She speaks of waking each day just trying to avoid being hurt. The abuse took such a psychological toll that she nearly attempted suicide in 2022. Damir's death in 2025 brought mixed emotions. Jelena described her grief as complicated and chose to remember a positive memory even in sorrow. Now a seasoned commentator and mental health advocate, she turns trauma into purpose, shining a light where silence once ruled. Her story proves that facing your darkest truth can become the most powerful legacy. Michael Chang's underhand serve versus Lendl, cheap trick that changed rules. It's the 5th of June 1989, and teenage Michael Chang is facing world number 1. Ivan Lendl in the French Open's 4th round. Down 2 sets and cramping through the 3rd, Chang suddenly does the unthinkable. He serves underhanded, standing behind the baseline and tossing the ball low, ducking tradition and expectation. Lendl, thrown off rhythm, double faults. Chang pulls off a 4-6, 4-6, 6-3, 6-3, 6-3 upset over 4 hours and 37 minutes of sheer will. The serve sharp, cheeky, unexpected, gets mocked as a cheap trick by purists. But it works. Chang becomes the youngest man ever to win a Grand Slam at 17 years, 109 days, and that moment remains etched in tennis memory. Over time, although not banned, the underhand serve gains a reputation for poor sportsmanship, and tournaments tweak guidelines to discourage abuse. Chang's move wasn't just a quirk, it exposed an untapped loophole in the rules and reminded the world that sometimes the greatest weapon is surprise. These stories are just the beginning. Tennis has even more shadows left to uncover. Make sure you're subscribed, drop a like, and keep rolling into the next video waiting right here.